First to admit that I am not that good at it. I look at things that you guys do in class and am blown away by the skills and layers and levels of everything that they've done with your digital work, and then I will try to do something and it will look like this toucan guy. Just kidding, it's not quite that bad. But I did want to show you just a couple of things, especially if you are really new to digital art and digital drawing, that might be helpful for you. So if we go out here to my desktop, I have tried a new app that is free called Adobe Fresco. You can sign in when you get it with your Google School password, so you don't have to make like a new account or anything. And the nice thing is it is free, which means, of course, there are a bunch of really cool features you have to pay for later on. But playing with it today, I have found that it is actually really, really cool, even just in the free mode. So we're going to open up Adobe Fresco. It's kind of what the home screen looks like. And I'm just going to click one to be my current screen size, but do whatever you want. So this is kind of what it looks like. And one of the things that I've always been a little leery of with digital art is I get really overwhelmed by all of these different like menus and the fact that you have 76 options for different things. I mean, even the colors, you've got these like roving like bands, and then like you can make the most beautiful colors, but it's crazy too. So don't be stressed out. Just take it baby steps at a time. It's like learning any new skill. So if we don't do that, go to the very first set of brushes. Actually, before we do that, if you're confused and want to go up to the help menu at the top, there's all kinds of tutorials, including if you don't have a stylus and are using your fingers, some different gestures to make. You've got some different settings up here and stuff like that, but I'm going to get right to the actual drawing. So the top brush on the left-hand side, if you press a little corner, you have all of these different kinds of brushes. And I purposely picked Adobe Fresco for you guys because it seems to be very art-based. So here you have just basic digital art brushes. Not that they aren't all art-based, but the materials looked like art materials. If you go to dry materials, you've got Conte crayon and graphite stick. So you could take your graphite, let's put this back down to black or something, and you could cover the whole page kind of like we would do with vine charcoal. And then you could go to your eraser and you could pick all these different kinds of erasers, like soft and just a little opaque. And you can kind of start doing almost like a negative space drawing the same way we would have in class. Now you'll have to mess more with like your settings to make them more or less opaque, or say you wanted like a sponge, you know, like how would that erase? But this is really kind of a fun way to do negative drawings. And of course you can always go back in with your graphite or your Conte crayon or whatever and hit some harder edges. Or even go back in with the soft chalk or pastel and kind of darken in areas that you want to be darker again. So that's kind of a cool first step and something to play with. You've got all these different ones. That's just dry materials. Let me see if I can go all the way back. I don't know if there's an easier way to go back to a completely blank screen. I'm sure somebody would be able to tell me. Anyways, this one's really cool too because you have different kinds of lettering brushes. If you want to try digital calligraphy, you have sketching tools like just a regular pencil. But the thing I was playing with and is really fun is painting. So you have these different kinds of brushes. For example, this one is Cezanne, so it's a little bit like it combines multiple colors because it's using kind of that impressionist brush stroke. So visible paint, visible colors. Another neat one under here was just impressionism, or scratchy brushes are always fun. I always like the Seurat because if you know Seurat, he's the guy that did like the pointillism. So if you keep running your paintbrush all over the place, you can see again that it has multiple colors. Back under dry materials, you also have, or for painting, You have wet brush, which would be more of like a watercolor technique. So if I change my color here a little bit, I can see that it's kind of filling in like watercolor, and it kind of tints my other colors here a little bit, kind of fill in the background. If I take my stylus off and then back on, it makes that area a little darker, but like watercolor kind of blends in on the edges a little bit. I like that you can really see the texture of the watercolor paper. And then I'll show you one other watercolor brush, and then I'll show you the coolest thing ever that makes me love this app. So I'll add some watercolor up here. It doesn't really blend the other colors so much as just kind of like overlap them, kind of just like watercolor would do. Here it overlaps a little bit more because I already have that yellow. Okay, so the next thing down is actually called live brushes. And this is one where there aren't really a whole lot without being like in the paid category. But check this out. If I go to watercolor, I can do a watercolor wash. I'm going to change my color a little bit here. And look, it smears and it blends all the paints together. It's like actually putting wet watercolor down on your paper. Like, do you see it? Okay, it's the coolest. Let's try another one and another color just so you can see it again. There's a couple watercolors like these. I think this would be really fun to work on building up layers, even just within one layer, like not talking about like digital art layers, but just to kind of like keep going back and forth. And I think one of my issues with digital art is always that it doesn't act the way I think it's going to, just because I'm so familiar with traditional materials. And not that that's a bad thing, it's just I need to learn more about it. But these brushes to me act like the brushes I'm used to. And then you get to oil paints. You can try any one of these. And the cool thing is, it's actually going to smear all your colors just like it would with oil paint. So again, you could lay down a lot of colors and then use this to kind of blend and smear, which I think would be really awesome. I don't know if you can actually change the color on this very much. Like if it'll, oh yeah, it'll still kind of work in there. So anyways, I think this might be a really fun one to play with. It'd be great if you guys wanted to take any kind of screen recordings yourself of working on your projects so that we can all kind of see.